Mobility improves when your nervous system is in a receptive state. So there's two things that are really useful to look at when we're doing this. So they're your breathing and your movement. And so think about it, if you've had an injury, if you've got pain, all of that sort of stuff, these all cause protective mechanisms within your body and your nervous system to keep you safe. And so then if you then go to try and go further than that, then the body then naturally will have this protective instance. And often we're so disconnected from the body that we then don't pay attention to these subtle signals. We push past it, we get injured, we give up and stay stuck again. So we want to look to how can we start to actually create a long-term sustainable improvement of the way the body feels and moves. And so the nervous system is a gateway to that, understanding how to work with the nervous system rather than just thinking about the joints and the muscular system and the fascia system. It all interconnects with the nervous system.
Yeah, and it can be so obvious, and at the same time, it's often really the harder part of the practice for people to get started off, because it's just connecting with the body on a deeper level and to become aware of where the body really gets stuck. So it's just looking at this next layer of what's happening in my body, in my nervous system on a deeper level when I'm doing XYZ.
Mm.
And just as a simple idea, it can be as easy as if something is not feeling good at the moment, then just look where is a joint position where it feels better. This can be the start off. It hasn't to be complicated and just go from there.
Mm.
If if the first response of the body is when you go into a position, into a movement, and it doesn't feel good and it's creating some sort of pain, just go out of it and see where is a position where it feels better. And from there, it's really easy to go through the body and through the movements from this really easy point of view. And of course, we can just start also focusing on breathing and movement and all that stuff. That's very useful to really see where I'm holding my breath and just go back to a position where you feel, okay, now the breath is more free and wants flow naturally instead of trying to force the breath. It's just like back off a bit and see, okay, now the breath is coming back more naturally, and the system will start to be receptive and open up. Yeah, just some
Mm.
practical point of views, and you can make it a bit more uh, practical.
Yeah, yeah. It's like one of the key things is that the more relaxed state we can be, it's sort of like working with wet clay. When the clay's wet and supple, it's easy to mold into different positions. When the nervous system goes into a fearful state, a shock-based state, a fight, flight, freeze, sympathetic state, then it's like that clay hardens. And so if you then going to try and stretch, open up your body, it's like trying to move stiff clay. So we want to get to a point where we can just meet the body where it's kind like you said, Marcus, where it's enjoyable, particularly if your body has felt like an unpleasant place to be for a while, starting to establish areas of movement that you can do and building on that, because wonderful thing happens is first the overall strength of the connection with your body, your willingness to connect with your body starts to grow. Then your movement, you're more likely to then just naturally want to move, and you're kind of like building like positive associations with connecting with your body, with moving your body. Once that starts to happen, then the fluids start to move much better, and like old injuries start to heal more easily, pain starts to relieve, rather than trying to like push through the pain or outstretch the tightness and all of that sort of stuff. It doesn't mean that we avoid these spaces of like, I just move where feels good and, like this feels good. And so, like I can relate to this because my spine was stuck like this. So it felt a lot better moving here than here because that was bloody painful, because my spine, I had all that stuff going on. And so, but by establishing, okay, what are the areas that we can move to start? What's happening with my breathing? Like little things like, can I kind of start to explore the edge of where I experience that discomfort and then just slow down my rate of breathing rather than forcing it, just letting it slow down. We might spend a moment in there, we might contract the body, relax the body, and then relax into that experience and then come out. And over time, we start to build a more receptive state to open up into that. And so that can be a really useful way of looking at it. And there's one ratio that I find really helpful to maybe give some more practicals with this is that if you're working with an area that is injured, then I generally recommend don't go past 50% of your capacity. So as an example, I injured my elbow a while ago, and I couldn't even pick up my phone. That was like 100% capacity. The pain peaked, so I wanted to find movements and stability movements and mobilizing movements where let's say that was like 100%. You know, I couldn't even think about straightening, but it's like, oh, that's when it really peaks. So my movement zone was like here to start, and I would start to continue to do that while the tissue was healing. So I'm not re-inflaming it and, like re-inflicting the wound. It just lengthens the healing process. So, and as I'm doing that, I'm noticing the shock from the original injury can come up. And so, like, the body's sort of processing all of these things. So, if we give yourself some space, let your breathing start to slow down, then the nervous system can start to become more receptive, and then the body can open up a lot more rather than just trying to push it to open and dominate the body. We want to establish a connection, a respectful relationship with how we work with the body. And then it opens up like a flower. We just got to give it the right environment to open up.
Yeah, in also a live example from coaching last week. Yeah, one of my clients is playing at the championships, world championships of ice hockey, and he was injured in a game. He really hit hard his shoulder, and he was not sure if he can go on with this tournament. And we met up just for a Zoom call, and it was exactly what you just shared. We just looked at it. Okay, what is his body capable of doing at the moment? And we started as on his right thumb, creating tension through the thumb. And in the moment where he hit the right angle for the body, in a way, right angle where the body was receptive, this shock from this injury just went through the system in 30 seconds. It was just like opening the gates of boom.
Mm,
And afterwards, he was able to move his shoulder again and creating tension. And the next day, he was back to play.
mm,
So it's really to look into the system. Okay, where is the nervous system? Where does the nervous system went into protective mode
mm,
and was was there to create safety of not getting injured even deeper, and
mm,
just find the spot of where we can connect and release those, yes, emotions and shock waves in the system.
mm,
And
mm,
from there, it can be really easy to reconnect and uh, build back stability and mobility. Of course, in this case, there was not so much uh, tissue damage going on, uh, but the principle is always the same. Just look where the body is in protective mode and how can we support to release this protective mechanism.
mm, mm. Yeah, I really appreciate that example. And like the key thing that we're talking about here is that like establishing a space of safety and continuing to expand that. And so we need to meet the body where it's at rather than try and push through. It's like a kid in the fetal position that's gone through an emotional experience. You don't try pry the kid open, like you give the kid presence, you let it open back up because you've given it a safe environment to open. And the body
Yeah.
is the same.